Welcome to our final panel event of Career Week. We are presenting today tips on transitioning to the workforce. My name is Crystal Turner, and I'm the Internship Advisor for the Central Region of the United States. I report into the Employer Relations and Internship team with Devry University. We're so pleased to have a dynamic panel of guests to share more with you about their tips on how to transition from your military career to the private job market. We will include a question and answer segment at the end of today's event, so we would ask you that you post your questions for the panel in the chat box. Let's meet our moderators. First, I would like to introduce you to my colleagues that are assisting me today. Kathleen Emery is the Senior Internship Advisor for the Eastern Region. Patty Jagodzinski is the Senior Career Advisor for the West Coast. And I'd like to introduce you to Terry Wallman, Director of Employee Relations and Internships. Terry, would you like to say a few words about Career Week and the exciting events that have taken place this week?
Absolutely, and thank you so much, Crystal. Good morning, afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our final live event of Career Week. It's sure to be an exciting and insightful conversation with our panelists today. I'm Terry Wallman, Director of Employer Relations and Internships for Devry University. And I want to thank you all so much for your time. I want to thank our panelists for your time, for your service, and for sharing your tips and best practices with Devry's military and veteran students and alumni on transitioning to the workforce. I'd also like to thank all of our students and our alumni for joining, for your service, and I hope that you've been able to participate in many of our Career Week events this week. We've had webinars, panel discussions, virtual career fairs. And just as a point of information, I want everyone to know if you missed any events, you'll be able to pick up the recordings at the end of the day today. All of the recordings will be uploaded to the Career Week registration page, and you'll be able to find them there. So thanks again, and back to you, Crystal.
Thank you, Terry. Let's start today by reviewing the agenda. We are going to ask our panelists to offer a short introduction of themselves, followed by questions taken from a survey of military and veteran students at Devry in the last couple of years. We will end with our question and answer segment, so be sure to put your questions again in the chat box. Here are today's panelists. They represent a wide variety of industries and have years of experience recruiting top talent. If we can go in order on the slide, Bruce, would you get us started with introductions?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate it. My name is Bruce Benedict. I retired from the military in 2007 as a Major, 04, from Fort Meade, Maryland. And I went into defense contracting and then into federal government, and became a hiring manager and a GS-15 in federal government. And now I am a senior manager with Verizon's intelligence team. I'm in charge of their cyber intel services, and also do battlefield resumes as well for vets. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Ted?
Hey, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate the invitation. My name's Ted Studdard. I started off as a Marine private. I retired as a colonel, serving 25 years on active duty. After I retired in 2013, I joined Home Depot. In Home Depot, I've worked in field operations in the stores. I've worked in training and development with Home Depot University, teaching leadership and staffing, and currently work in operations for Home Depot. So I look forward to chatting with you all.
Thank you, Ted. And I'd like to point out to our participants that Ted and Calvin both work for Home Depot and are in the same video, in case you're confused by that. So, Calvin, if you would, introduce yourself.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Calvin Washington. I started off in the Air Force, Did 4 years in the Air Force and decided I wanted to do a change and got out in civilian life, and it wasn't for me. So I went back and joined the Air Force, and after 28 years, I'm a retired Air Force First Sergeant, and I started working with Home Depot. After I got on with Home Depot, I got moved to Atlanta, and I just ironically had a coworker of mine who had a Devry University ring on, and I said, "Hey, what is that all about?" And he explained it, and I got my second master's in human resource management from Devry University in around 2008. And so it's been a wonderful experience for me so far, and I look forward to chatting with you all as well.
Thank you, Calvin. And next we have up Tim.
All right, good morning, everybody. Just to make you all feel very special, I just want you to know that I did take a shower for this opportunity today, so that should make you all feel very warm in the fact that doesn't usually happen during the day. But give you a quick background myself. I was Air Force. I did 14 years, and one day I found out that I was going to be medically retired and had to grow up within a matter of days. And so really took an in-depth look into what it was like to transition in a short window. I looked to all my peers that were transitioning out and really took all that information and put it into use and found an opportunity with an Accenture. I've been with an Accenture for about 6 years now, primarily in the veteran and spouse recruiting. We also did some alumni referral work, so I brought a lot of that practice into our team and been here ever since. It's a great opportunity to be here and excited to see what you all have for as questions. So looking forward to this.
Thank you so much, Tim. And our final panelist today is Mike Blackburn. Mike?
Thank you, Crystal. Thanks for having me. My name's Mike Blackburn. I'm an Air Force veteran as well. Good to see all the Air Force vets up here. I'm the military recruiting liaison for DaVita. I spent 14 years in the Air Force before getting out about 4 years ago, 4.5, I would say now. Time flies. I've been with DaVita for 4 years. My first real job out of the Air Force. I've learned a ton, especially with People Services, which is our HR recruiting department. And happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you so much, Mike. Okay, let's just go ahead and get started with our first question. From the survey we conducted, sent to military and veteran students at Devry, the results indicated 3 primary areas of concern. We will be covering those top three areas in the next hour. With a percentage of 68%, our first question is, how do I effectively locate opportunities with companies that hire veterans? Let's start this discussion with Bruce.
Yeah, I would, so from the Verizon perspective, what I would recommend is going to organizations like Hiring Heroes, things like that, where you, before you actually transition out, you may be able to do an internship or a co-op with them, and then it transitions into a position. I've seen that quite a bit within Verizon, where we've had active duty soldiers attend. They're with us kind of like an intern would be. And even with Verizon, now you have not only the intern capability, but you also have that military transition capability to work kind of as a part-time employee, and then at the same time, you're being vetted to determine, can you move into a full-time position afterwards? And a lot of them I've seen transition into a full-time position.
Thank you, Bruce. Next, we're going to move over to Ted.
Yeah, hey guys, and Bruce, great comments, and I'd just like to dovetail off of that. But when you start the process, it's going to require a bit of networking, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but I don't think you can overemphasize, I should say, the value of the networking when you start this process. And I think what Bruce said about internships is absolutely critical. Most of these larger companies have an internship program, especially for younger folks getting out of college. So don't overlook those internships. The other thing I would share with you is start looking at the culture of the company that you want to be part of. And, if you're looking for a specific company in a specific field, that's fine. But if you're really exploring a range of companies, go down in a little bit of depth and see if what they're talking about on their website actually meets their actions. Are their values being put into motion every day by what they do as an organization? The other thing that Bruce brought up, I think that's really worthwhile, is the part-time work. And I know at Home Depot, we start out with a lot of our guys start part-time and they move up way up in the ranks. So many people, while they're going to school, have a part-time job, but it doesn't lead anywhere. You're flipping burgers and own a chain of McDonald's. That might not help you in your future career. But if you can look in the industry that you're really interested in, or with a specific company that you're interested in, and get that part-time work, that certainly will open doors for you. It will also allow you to explore that company and that industry to see if it's really what you want to do. And then you can parlay that into a full-time career if you desire.
Great advice. And so now I'd like to turn it over to Calvin and ask for his comments. And I would want our students to especially pay attention because Calvin was a graduate of Keller. And so he's been in exactly your spot before. Calvin?
Yeah, so what I've done when I got out is I kept in touch with a lot of prior military folks who made friendship with, and I spoke with them and asked them where were they working, and just so happened it was a retired chief who I knew, and he was working at Home Depot, and I asked him, why do you work there, and what are the benefits of working there? And that's why I chose going for Home Depot. I also had a part-time job before I found Home Depot working for Family Dollar. I was selected to be a store manager. But after going through that, I decided Home Depot was probably a better fit for me. And as Ted said, a lot of us at Home Depot start as part-time employees and work our way up. Our executive vice president of U.S. retail stores, Anne-Marie Campbell, was a part-time cashier, and now she's leading all of our U.S. stores. And so my Devry experience has also helped me, and then I was able to network and find other opportunities out in the civilian sectors. And I just haven't explored any of those at the moment because I really like what I'm doing, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Calvin. Tim, what would you like to add?
So I think one of the biggest things, especially for veterans that are students, there's so many different groups out there. SBA is a large one. There's so many different ones on LinkedIn and that. So using their network, like others have said before, I always like to say that your network is your net worth, because the bigger your network is, the better opportunities you're going to find yourself. I think one of the challenges, though, for a lot of veterans that we don't think about is, we're so excited to make that transition and find those next steps into an organization and that, but we never actually look how the organization fits into where I want to be. And so a lot of times I ask candidates having to consider relocation, and that's not always a choice. So big thing for you all to think about is, what type of organization are you trying to get into? Is that organization located in the area you want to be? If not, is that an organization you want to chase? Because if that's not the case, then look at other opportunities. And I know sometimes it kind of sounds like we try to push people out, but you have to be realistic as possible when looking for those opportunities. But once you find them, there's so many out there that are trying to hire the veteran spouse, especially when, as a graduate in that, we have our development programs for undergrads and MBAs and that. So just find an organization that has that commitment to hiring those type of employees, and then start to look into what those programs are all about, and are those programs something you want to buy into, or do you want to find something else?
Thank you, Tim. Mike.
Yeah, everyone had such great answers. I'm trying to figure out something else to say. I definitely agree with everything said, and find an employer that fits your values. I think I heard Ted say that, and I think that's key to match those values. I think that, when I look at some resumes from veterans, sometimes you see a lot of hopping around. I stumbled across DaVita, and it was because of those values. I literally Googled military-friendly companies in Denver, and, Verizon actually popped up, Accenture popped up, and DaVita popped up as well. And, I looked into them, saw the values, actually was still a little skeptical because every company has core values, right? right? So it wasn't until I got to know the company, got to know and reach out to some veterans within the company to find out those values are real and they're big here at DaVita. So yeah, my key point is to find those companies with values, and a lot of these military-friendly companies, Best for Vets, we have had Freedom Award winners from the ESGR, a lot of different awards to recognize these companies as well and make them easier to find.
Thank you so much, Mike. And so now we're going to go to our second question, and I'm going to start in reverse order. So, in the survey, 51% of the population expressed concerns over transitioning their military skills and accomplishments. Often the skills obtained in a military career are expansive and difficult to explain when relating them to a private job. What tips can you recommend when trying to explain these skill sets to a potential employer? So, Mike, if you would, lead us off.
Yeah, I think your recruiter is the best friend. Once you get connected to that recruiter and you're having that conversation, they can give you a lot of information about what they're looking for. So you have to be able to listen and be able to tell your story. I think one of the common things I see when I talk to veterans is, and I think I did it myself too when I introduced myself. It was brief, but I talk about I was a crew chief and I was a recruiter. Obviously, there's so much more that I think the military almost dumbs down what we do in a lot of ways, and we have to expand on that, but also expand on it in an in-depth way of where it relates to the position. So you can use that job description to start, which take that with a grain of salt, but also reach out and network and find somebody in the company. I have always answered LinkedIn messages. I've always answered emails to veterans reaching out. Veterans are here from each other, and that's something that I didn't do when I did not reach out and got super lucky. But you can increase your chances by knowing the role, talking to people that are in the role, finding out exactly what they're looking for in the role, and then telling your story, your military story in an in-depth way, because I think we have a lot of breadth of experience, and it's so hard to hit on, what we did and how many hats we wore, where, a lot of these companies, a lot of these hiring managers are looking for a depth of experience in one area. So find out what that depth of experience is and expand on that.
Thank you. Tim, what do you have to offer?
Yeah, Mike hit it on. I mean, there's 2 points I want to hit. Number one, referrals. I mean, referrals is the best way to have that opportunity to get recognized. I know it's an Accenture because what we do is we actually give bonuses to those that are hired. So if you were to be hired into the organization, the person that referred you gets a bonus. And so they have two reasons to buy into you. Number one, because, hey, they're getting money, and, people like money. But number two, that's a great opportunity to get that information and understand that. Yes, there's a lot of translators out there, websites and that you can use to really give you the information on the roles in that, but the best way is to really learn about the organization is from somebody within. The second thing, and this is the challenge I deal with probably most more than anything else, we all have this mentality of jack of all trades, master of none scenario, where we're good at a lot of different things, and like Mike said, we all wear different hats. I was a security forces, combat arms in the Air Force. That was my two primary jobs, but I had 5 or 6 other jobs to go along with, and I could write a resume days long and just bore people just reading it. But the reality is, when it comes time to actually apply those skills in that, you really have to be great at a few things. So trying to find the job that you want to do once you get out, start using that as your research piece when you start looking at organizations, because that will help you kind of translate what type of work they do, and then really focus your skills towards that, because if you try to go in as a generalist, a lot of times most organizations are just going to say you're underqualified. But if you go in saying that you're a specialist in specific areas, you'll get more opportunities presented to you.
Thank you so much, Tim. Calvin.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off of Tim there. So I started off as a crew C-130 crew chief, and then I transitioned to first sergeant. And so when I got out, I would tell people all the time that I'm a human resources person as a first sergeant. So you have to look at the job description, and as Tim said, take the basics of what the job entails, and then tone your resume towards that. Also find a recruiter, find someone like Ted or myself or the other panelists, and reach out to us, and we'll definitely help you. And there's a group of called American Corporate Partners, and Ted probably will speak more to that. those kind of organizations will definitely help you tailor your resume. But the biggest thing is to tailor your resume to the particular job that you're going for. Don't have a one-size resume that fits all.
Thank you. Ted?
You know, it wouldn't be right if I didn't go back to what Tim said. It seems to be a recurring theme here. Great points, man. I think maybe I'll take what Tim was talking about and just spin it a little different way. And the first thing people would ask me is, Ted, what do you want to do? Well, I just want to be in charge. Well, I quickly found out that being in charge is not a job description in corporate America. So you need to put a little bit more into that than I did. And there are plenty of people who think they're in charge anyway, and you're probably not going to be one of them to start off with. But as funny as it seems, it can be very frustrating. And I think what we all bring to the table are those intangibles. Yes, we each had an MOS. Yes, we had a specific skill set like Calvin was talking about HR. But think about the leadership that you've had. It doesn't matter what your MOS was. You've had tons of leadership experience, tons of leadership training. You've had responsibility. You've had decision-making authority. You've been under pressure to perform and to make decisions. You've worked with incredible diversity. You've worked with innumerable cultures. You've worked with people all around the world. Those are the intangibles that will make you successful in business. But now, how do you translate that? And I think you've got to be able to tell your story. And so think of 2 or 3 or 4 stories that illustrate how you were a leader, that illustrate how you made decisions, that illustrate how you made good choices, how you took care of people, those kinds of things, and use those stories to illustrate those intangible things. That's what people want to hire you for. They'll train you to do something, but it's those other things that your competition doesn't have, and you've got that in spades.
Thank you. And finally, we're going to move over to Bruce. And remember that Bruce is the founder and owner of Battlefield Resumes, so he's regularly asked this type of question. So if you would, Bruce, offer your comments.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if you can hear the airplanes or not. I'm sorry about that. I'm actually on base. I just got finished with the TAP program, so a briefing. So that's why I'm in my car right now, so sorry about that. No, but my recommendation always to veterans is, you know, what do you want to do is the first question you have to ask, and that's a challenge for all of us. Where do you want to live is kind of the second question and could be the first question, because, you know, if you want to go back home, like I always say, I left home and you know, throughout our military career, we wanted to go back home. Well, why? There was a reason I left. There's no jobs back there. Let's move to where the jobs are, and so that's why I found myself in D.C. And what I've discovered since I've been here is a very, very easy transition is to move into defense contracting or federal government, just because they're familiar with your language already. So it requires some tailoring and some tweaking, but if you move into that type of realm, which, you know, like Accenture is a defense contractor, you move into that kind of realm, then it's a little easier transition, because the majority of the people looking at your resume are prior military. So that definitely helps. What I would always recommend also is build a theme. You know, a lot of times we're told to translate our military information into civilian language. Well, the challenge with that is we don't know civilian language. We weren't civilians. A lot of us were only civilians for about 17 years, and then we joined the military, and then at age 40 we got out, you know, or so. So we don't know what that means. It's almost like saying translate my military experience into Chinese. Well, I don't know Chinese, so I couldn't do that. What I would recommend, and the easiest way to go about it, is to target your resume for a certain job and then tailor the language. And what that means really is look at a job that you want to apply to, and then build a theme throughout your resume that supports that job. So everything in your resume should support that one job, and then create your resumes like that so you have multiple themed resumes. and you know, add your additional duties, add the different types of things you did within your job, and then just build that job title theme and then the job description theme to support it. Hopefully that helps.
Great advice. That does help. Okay, we're going to move on to our third question. In the survey we conducted, 58% were concerned about networking. What advice can you offer about networking for private industry jobs? And so let's start this discussion with Ted and Calvin.
Do you want to
Go
first?
ahead. No, go right ahead.
You know, first thing, guys, networking is not a dirty word. You know, initially when I kept hearing networking when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, and to me that just equated to brown nosing, and I wanted no part of that. I came to realize that I was really wrong, that networking is truly what it is creating a network of people who know that can help you move along and that you also help them. So definitely not a bad word. I think when you talk about networking, you can really put your network into several buckets. One is a job. Who out there has that type of job that you're looking for? Who out there is in the second bucket with a company that you're interested in? Or the third bucket, the industry that you're interested in? Or the fourth bucket, the location that you're interested in? And if you can start networking in each of those four buckets, you're going to have a pretty good idea of where you want to go and what you want to do, and it'll help you weed through or work through that process. Calvin touched on something earlier with American Corporate Partners. Now, American Corporate Partners is a mentorship network, but they also are very valuable in helping you network across industries and in cities. And I would highly recommend looking up American Corporate Partners and getting a mentor. Hugely beneficial. And the last piece of this is once you get hired, your networking really begins again. And you want to create an internal network within that organization that you have. And you certainly want to look at a network in that specific job or line of work that you're in within the company, as well as a network outside of that specific job or that silo that you work in, because you're going to want to cross boundary or work throughout the whole job or throughout the whole company as you move forward. But if you're siloed, you'll never get that opportunity to move out. So just a bit on networking, and I would highly encourage it.
And so the one thing that I would add is if you're not on Indeed, be sure to get on Indeed, create an account, and reach out to folks that you know currently and build your network from there. I met Ted, and Ted has taken me to a couple of events, and he's introduced me to some other folks, and then we've built a relationship, and then we've gone from there. So always look forward to an opportunity. Someone says, hey, would you like to go to this thing? Back in my younger day, I probably would have said no. But nowadays, I'll gladly go, because you never know who you're going to meet. And, you know, just that one person you meet and you start talking, you have something in common, and that person knows someone that can help you get to where you want to be.
Hey, Kelvin,
Thank you.
No, right ahead.
One saved round here. Most of these big companies have something, we call it in Home Depot an ARG, an Associate Resource Group. But most of your larger companies have this, and it's a way for veterans to connect within the company. That is also a great network, and I would strongly recommend you looking into that whenever you choose a company. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ted. And now we're going to move over to Tim. What can you tell us about networking?
So the first thing I always recommend, especially when it comes to people on LinkedIn, don't try to sell yourself. I think that's one of the things a lot of people try to do because they're really trying to get people to buy into them. But a lot of times, you know, people, if you're trying to do a quick introduction, you know, just come off as a normal human being. Hey, I'm really interested in your organization. I see that you work in a part of the organization that I'm excited about. I'd like to learn more. Instead, most people say you want to do their elevator speech in their introduction and that, and sometimes it really turns people off. So just do a quick, hey, you know, I'm reaching out to you. I'd like to get some additional information, and just start the conversation that way. I think I've seen a lot more people get by in that way than trying to do it the other way, because now it kind of just feels awkward, because what are you supposed to do with that next step? Like Ted was talking about, we call ours ERGs, the Employee Resource Group. We have a military ERG. We have a military spouse ERG. I'm the lead for the disability ERG here in Denver. We have about 25 different ERGs, and what's great about them is it's an opportunity to connect with like-minded people or learn more. So we have, if you don't want to be part of this ERG, you want to go find a different one, go be a part of it. But it's just a great way to network. And the one thing I definitely want to hit on for this, especially organizations like Accenture, you have to have a network. Because once you get into the organization, guess what? Your interviewing, your resumes are not going away. You're still doing that and for the rest of your career, because it is a project-based organization. Your project could be 6 months, could be 6 years. But when that time comes up, you have to find that next opportunity within the organization if you want to continuously grow yourself. I think this is where a lot of veterans get themselves in trouble when they get in the organization, because they're so used to having that mentality of, I'm going to do this until I'm told otherwise. Well, guess what? When you get in this organization, you're not going to be told otherwise. You're going to go to the bench, and you're going to be trying to figure out why you're not getting the projects that you want, because you have to go out and fight for them. So that's where that network comes into play. And the great thing about it is, if you have people buy into you, you don't have to do that work, because they're doing the work for you. Hey, Ted, you are great on this last project. I worked with Calvin on it and told me how great you are. I'd really like you to work on this next project for me. Well, all of a sudden, instead of you having to go out and trying to find the next project, those people are doing it for you. So that's why the network is so key. I've been told numerous times that if you fail as an individual within your organization, you fail. But if you fail as a team, you do not fail. And it comes down to the fact that you're leaning on other people. You're going to have strong points, you're going to have weak points. And guess what? You need to have people around you that are the complete opposite to help you up, because that's the only way you're going to grow. So don't go into an organization thinking it's an individual mentality, because if so, I don't think you're going to have the success and the excitement that you're looking for. So definitely lean on people, because people are going to be there to help you out. And trust me on this one, I was scared, and I would love to use the word that I want to, but I was scared blankless coming into Accenture, because I didn't even know what Accenture was. I just got a phone call, and they said, hey, are you interested in the organization? I said, give me about 30 minutes to do some research on you, because I have no idea what you do. And the recruiter actually laughed about it, and she gave me 30 minutes, called back. I did a quick little synopsis of what I read up on, and that's what my intro to the organization was. But that was my ability to reach out to some friends that I knew were in the organization, ask some quick questions and turn around and answer those questions. So that's how my network started, just knowing some people within the organization, getting the information I needed to get that conversation started, and allowed me to continuously move forward. So that being from day one, going from, again, not knowing what I wanted to do to grow when growing up to where I am today, wouldn't be for the fact of all the people that I had to lean on to get here.
Thanks so much, Tim. And Mike, what would you like to offer?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice is don't be scared. It seems like a foreign word to us, networking. And, I got out and I had, all this recruiting experience, and I was going to get a job as a recruiter in a Fortune 500 company. Thank God I did, because I didn't use my network like I should. I said before, on LinkedIn or wherever, whatever platform, you want to use for networking, reach out to vets. Vets want to help other vets. And don't be afraid to reach out to non-veterans too. They want to help veterans too. People want to help people, and I think that's the great thing about when I got out is to find out there's so many passionate people in DaVita that I've met that are veterans that are passionate about veteran recruiting and veteran initiatives. But there's, on the flip side, there's so many that are non-veterans that are just as passionate, and it's just blown me away, the passion that non-veterans have, because I feel like a lot of other people have connections to the military, and they weren't able to serve for one reason or the other. They want to help. So don't be afraid to reach out, and don't be like me and be scared to reach out. And I think it really helps. So now I've, embraced networking, and I'm surprised I haven't met Tim at any events or anything around in Denver. And I'm going to track him down now. But, now I have people trying to steal me away from DaVita just because they've met me, got to know me, and felt felt like I'd be a good fit for their company. So don't stop networking. We've done it before. We just didn't know we were doing it when we were on base and we were going to, the local watering hub, and we're networking before. It just looks a little bit different once you get out.
Thank you so much, Mike.
I have a year-old daughter, and so I'm a vampire right now. I don't get to see the daylight so often, so that's why I haven't seen you out.
Oh, and Bruce, thank you for coming back. What would you like to talk or say to us about networking?
Yeah, I try to relate it exactly the way everyone else has. To your military time, you kind of remember when you had to turn in your TA-50 and you went to CIF and you're like, okay, well, I need to make friends with these guys because in 3 years I'm going to have to turn this stuff in. I don't want to pay for it, So it's really just friendship making, or, you're going to Burger King every day and you just become friends with the person who's going to give you some extra fries next time you go through the line. So for me, what I know that's always worked for me, and the easiest way to transition out if you're currently active duty or you're moving out, is basically write down a list of your friends. And LinkedIn is phenomenal with this because it tracks where your friends are and where they work. And the easiest transition is to have them pull you in. And at that point, then you start making new friends, and those friends are pulling you in, and everyone's pulling each other higher and higher and higher. And in LinkedIn, it's fascinating because I kind of draw a comparison between resume writing, translating your resume, theming your resume to networking. And you can use LinkedIn for this too, and it's the method that has been talked about today. And basically what that is if you're applying to a certain job, let's say I'm applying to an Accenture job or a Home Depot job, and the job announcement actually has the job title on it, and I know the location, let's say it's Indianapolis, Indiana, it's Home Depot, and it's for this particular position. If you go into the advanced search of LinkedIn, you can actually find everybody who's in LinkedIn who has worked in that particular position or a similar position in Indianapolis, in the actual city. I mean, it actually does that. So based on all your work history that you have in your profile and everybody else has, you can search it. And so what's important about that is it's non-intimidating, right? So if you reach out to those individuals who have held a position that you would like to apply to, then you can ask them about the position and the key terms and key words, maybe the key activities behind the scenes, right? Why do they leave? And you strike up that conversation, and you're not begging for a job. It's not coming across as you're trying to obtain valuable information from somebody who has been in the job you're trying to apply to. And using that philosophy really, really works. I kind of look at networking as a prior counterintelligence guy, as a prior human collector. I look at it as running sources. Basically you have a whole friend network and you're building more and more friends, and they will refer you, basically put their name on the line for you. So, you have to be good to them and they're good to you, and that carries you along a very, very long way. But to try to narrow down, hey, here's the job I'm looking for in the location and the city, and finding and then reaching out to them to find out more about the job that you really are looking to apply to is extremely valuable, and it's a way to get in and start building friends, a friend network that may help you in the future.
Thank you, Bruce, and you've hit on something that I want to expand upon just for a moment. And one of the things we hear frequently from our students who have just recently exited out of the military is that they don't want their profile out on LinkedIn. They are kind of nervous about social media and about how to use it. So what could you say to those students in that case?
Yeah, I have not seen yet where, and I know it does happen, but I have not seen where an an organization actually looks at a resume, then spends the time to look at the LinkedIn profile and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. I haven't really seen that. However, I know it's important because I know people do it. I've heard about it. I just haven't witnessed it myself. Where it's important, though, to be on LinkedIn is not so much all of the detailed information that you have, like your bio. I would limit kind of that information. I'd put a theme of what your capability is, but what's really important about LinkedIn is the connections and who you know. And based on your connections or based on the searching that you can do in LinkedIn, who can you find that may be able to help you, right? And it's really like a working Facebook. You know, it's phenomenal. And you stay in touch with everybody and let them know, hey, in 6 months, I'm looking for something, and if you have anything available, or hey, let's get on a call, and I just want to understand better what you do to see if it's something that I may want to move into that career field or not. But that's what I would look at for LinkedIn profiles, is maybe not all your detail, not all your bio, but it is a great and fascinating social media platform to make connections and to sustain the connections that you have.
Thank you, and we try to promote that to our students, exactly that philosophy. Before I leave this topic, does anyone else want to comment on LinkedIn or any of the other comments that have been made?
Yeah, Terry, this is Calvin. The only social media that I have is LinkedIn. Like a lot of people, but I was told you need LinkedIn if you want to try and elevate your career or make connections. So recruiters use LinkedIn and Indeed as a way to reach out to potential candidates for their position. So if you don't have anything else, I would definitely encourage you to get LinkedIn. And as Bruce said, you don't have to put your full gamut of everything out there, but at least have a profile where you can let people know that you're interested in what kind of positions you're interested in.
And I'll add to that too. You get a free year if you're a veteran. Yep. So don't forget to use that benefit. It's an awesome tool you can use.
You know, guys, there's one more thing, if I may add this, and it's a group called Bunker Labs. And Bunker Labs is expanding a footprint across America. And there are a lot of guys like us that want to do something entrepreneurial. And Bunker Labs is a great resource focused on veterans, helping them start their own businesses and be entrepreneurial. It is a phenomenal network. So if that's what you're thinking about doing, I would highly encourage you to look into that. Bunker Labs.
Thank you. Before we move over to our question and answer, I have one more request of all of you. And that's because having been looking at your website for your companies, we know that most of you have military segments that are especially geared toward veterans that have exited and are looking for employment. So I'd like for Timothy to start, and I'd like for you just to take an opportunity to plug that site. And in Tim's case, I know Accenture also offers the webinars that I'd like for you to talk a little bit about.
Sure, you start off with me. I'm sitting here going blank as you're talking. So we do have our, and I'll have to look up the address. It's been so long since I've been on it, but we have a site that is dedicated to talking about transitioning veterans and helping those veterans and spouses as they try to find roles within corporate America and Accenture Federal Services, which Bruce said earlier, that is our federal affiliate. So we do have some contracts out there as well. But the whole page was really kind of started off to translate and help us, guide you through the conversations, and that we have 3 programs that we focus on for hiring veterans and spouses. 2 of them I'm going to talk about because the third one is kind of in holding pattern right now, that one being Accenture Veteran Technology Training Program. That's where we take veterans and spouses and partner up with Udacity and provide some training in that. But we have 2 other focuses right now, number one being we'll call it the Consulting Analyst Program. That's where we take veterans and spouses getting their undergrads and MBAs and give them the opportunity to be considered for our consulting and our technology development programs. There's also a new apprenticeship program that we've aligned to that area as well. And then we have the Junior Military Officer Program. And so that is for those 01, 03s, E5, E6s, and now including spouses this year that have an active background and get that opportunity to transition into some sort of consulting type of role. So that's what that site's all about. The webinar that Crystal's talking about, that is just really an opportunity to kind of give some insight into recruiting, because that is the biggest challenge for almost anybody. And we on this panel here can talk about, the challenges. Well, one of the biggest challenges is really trying to figure out what is being looked at on the other side. And so what we do is we talk about Accenture a little bit because, hey, you're applying to Accenture. You kind of want to know what type of organization it is. We talk about our military recruiting team and the fact we're more of an advocate than an actual recruiter. And I really want people to understand that, because if they come to me, they usually send me a resume and say, hey, Tim, what do you got for me? And I'll just usually say, I have absolutely nothing for you. And it's not me trying to be rude. It's just that there's so many variables that we need to have answered. And so, I want to start a conversation based on what you're trying to achieve. So you say, hey, Tim, here's my resume. I'm looking at supply chain in Philadelphia. Okay, now we have something we can have a conversation on. But lastly, and probably the most important portion of the whole thing is strategy, because that is the portion of the conversation that you own. I always tell people right at the very beginning, if you put your career in somebody else's hands, they're going to fail you miserably, because it's not their career. And it's not that they don't care. It's just they don't care about your career as much as they do as theirs. So you have to take your ownership of your career and run with it. Now, again, we talked about it earlier today with networking. Yes, use your network. Mentor, have people that mentor you, have people that you can lean on and guide you and get that information. But again, make the decisions for yourself, because otherwise the organization is going to make that decision for you, and it's probably not going to be the decision you want to have. So that's what the webinar is really all about. It's about a 45 minutes to hour-long conversation, again, talking about Accenture, the military recruiting team, and the strategy portion. So we look at resumes, and we look at job description, look what type of key phrases are we looking at, and really just how to tailor that resume, because that is what I tell people all the time is we're trying to make you go from an easy no to a yes, because that's unfortunately what happens within recruiting is they have 500 people apply, they're trying to get it down to 50 people, so they're looking for easy no's. And so we don't want that to happen to you. We want to give you the information and give you that strategy to make those decisions really hard on the recruiting teams and make it to the point where they want to have that conversation and give you that chance to sell yourself over the phone.
Thank you, Tim. Mike, would you like to say a word or two about your military recruiting?
Yeah, our military recruiting site is careers.devita.com/military, or you could go to devitahiresvets.com, redirects you there too. Shows our culture, our core values, everything that we're all about. And feel free to reach out to me if you have anything and have any questions.
Thank you. And Ted and Calvin?
Yeah, the same for us. All of our jobs are listed on careers.homedepot.com. If you're going to do the hourly piece, it will ask you, are you a veteran? Just so we can collect that data. And then obviously we love to hire veterans, so when you come in for an interview, they will know already. On the hourly side, on the corporate side, and the salaried side, you still put your resume out there for the positions, and reach out to myself or Ted, and we can definitely get you directed in the right direction for any particular position you may be looking for.
Thank you. And Bruce?
Yeah, I know Verizon actually has a group that focuses solely on vets and that military transition. So you can always email me, and I'll put you in contact with that group. I don't know off the top of my head what their email address is, but I know I've worked with them because on my team we've had multiple veterans go through that program, or multiple military active duty guys and veterans going through that program. So so I can put you all in touch with the Verizon HR office for that.
Thank you. Okay, we have approximately 10 minutes left, so we're going to move into the question and answer segment. So I'm going to ask my colleague, Kathleen Emery, if she would, to come on and start with our first question.
Thank you, Crystal. So one of the questions was, what is your number one tip for setting yourself up for success once you have left the military?
So who would like to start us off?
I can take that one. I think my biggest thing that I did not focus on immediately was just continuous improvement. I kind of rested on my laurels. Like, I have a degree, I have, X amount of experience, but I was just looking for a job. I wasn't doing anything to continuous improve myself. So since then, I went and got a couple more degrees and some certifications and things that really helped my career. And I really see our recruiters looking at that, certifications, anything you can. There's so many great programs out there. So yeah, focus on continuous improvement.
Thank you. So let's just move over to Bruce.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. I think also what would help is I always look at strategy, and I know that's been mentioned before with the panelists. I mean, that to me, it just works. You just have to do that. And how do you do that, right? So not just that you have to, but how do you do that? And my recommendation is always, it starts with the job searching. So look online and look at some jobs that you're interested in, some job announcements, and print the job announcements out that you like. Compare them, the ones that are similar, and look at the requirements section. And in the requirements section, you're going to see a theme of requirements for some of the jobs that are really interesting to you that you want. And in those requirements, you're going to see certifications, levels of degrees, types of degrees, years of certain types of experience. That right there sets the stage, basically the objectives, the milestones that you need to accomplish to get the job you want. And so as you're transitioning, if you're a year or two out, then look at those jobs, and then that will create a roadmap for you. That it just helps you keep track and focus the energy that you have on accomplishing those milestones, which are requirements for jobs that are interesting to you.
Thank you. Ted, what is your number one tip?
I totally agree with the comment about continued growth and development. Once you're on the job, you want to be the best at whatever you're doing. And so you continue to have to grow. Totally agree with that. But I think my number one tip would be, before you get to that point, do your preparation, do your homework, and take the time to think. Really consider what you want to do and where you want to do it, and then begin your search.
Thanks, Ted. Calvin?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Mike said, as you know, I had a master's degree already when I retired from the Air Force, or soon after I retired. And being at Home Depot, and I wanted to kind of move up in the HR world. That's why I went back to Devry and got my second master's in human resource management. I also have a graduate certificate in human resource management from Keller. So getting those certifications are definitely key. And my next goal for me is to get my SHRM certification. So because I'm in HR and going to stay there, I want to get every certification that I can. So certification for me is the key.
And Tim, what is your number one tip?
One of the things I always kind of laugh about when I was told this, but it kind of rings true today, is say yes and figure it out later. For my career, I actually started off as a contractor. The salary, the pay was great and everything, but the transition into full time was my focus and everything. So one of the things I did when I first got into the organization was I sat down with people that were above me, that's done the job before me, and I asked two questions. Number one, what's your expectations of me? And number two, what does it take to get to where you are? And get the information from those people. Because yes, sometimes certificates are great. Yes, sometimes degrees are great. But what are the experiences that the organization really wants you to have and build off of? And so sometimes I've kind of stepped off the deep end, scared, again, blankless, because I like using that term, and took that dive, and it's paid off for me. Yeah, sometimes you're going to fail. I've failed numerous times within this organization, but like I said earlier, having the people around me that I have, knowing that I'm trying my darndest to do what's right by the organization, and that they bought into it, they helped me correct my faults and got me to where I needed to be today. So that is something that's definitely happened for me. And again, it can happen to you, but don't look back. Keep on looking forward and make those decisions you think will work best for you.
Thank you, Tim. Let's go back to Kathleen. Kathleen, do we have another question?
Yes, Crystal, we do. Question about resumes. The question is, do I really need a government resume, a defense contractor resume, and a private sector resume?
Who would like to start us off with that question?
I could probably start that one off. I worked on
Thanks, Bruce.
really focused on federal resumes. So yes, I would say the short answer is yes. But what I would always recommend is to have a long resume first. And I always, what is a long resume and how do you build a long resume so you can copy and paste and shape the other ones? Is basically just go into USA Jobs and create a USA Jobs resume builder resume. Use their builder, and basically it's one page per job, but at least you'll have a long one in there. And that's literally the resume builder in USA Jobs is what you need to use when you're applying to federal jobs. For defense contracting, I'll refer over to Tim, and for corporate, Ted and Calvin. So, but for federal government, I would always recommend going and not uploading your regular resume, but always using the resume builder within USA Jobs. And the reason I say that is because a regular resume is not going to have required fields such as hours per week. They need to know your salary. They need to know your month, sometimes the day, month, year of every job you've held, when and where. So there's all kinds of little requirements that you have to, and it'll ensure that you have all that stuff when you use a USA Jobs resume builder.
Thank you. Who else would like to chime in? Tim?
Just to answer Bruce's response, yes, there is a difference. I get a lot of federal resumes sent to me, and my first response to you is, we're not the federal government. We do not take those type of resumes. Accenture Federal Services and Accenture LLP are two separate entities in the fact that we have different leadership, we have different guidance, and that we have different clients. But both sides are still considered a corporation, and so the type of resumes they take in are going to be the corporate type. So, your audience is probably the biggest thing that you really got to figure out when you're looking at the type of organization. So Accenture Federal Services, we want to see that you're in the D.C. metro area or San Antonio, Texas. Yes, we want to see that you have the clearances and everything on there, but it's still going to be a corporate type resume and not the federal type resume.
Ted, Calvin, do you have any comments?
Yeah, for our hourly positions at Home Depot, we don't require a resume. You just go in and apply and maybe list your last 3 jobs. But on the salary corporate side, I would look at the job that you're interested in and tailor your resume for that particular job. Look at the job description and what the requirements are and just tailor your resume for that. So don't use one resume for every job.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
And I would just add on to that, more from the way it looks point of view. I work with a lot of veterans through American Corporate Partners, and oftentimes the first resume is just jam-packed with everything. Your corporate recruiters aren't going to take a lot of time to look at your resume, so pull out those salient points, keep it 2 pages or less, and keep a lot of open white space on that resume to make it easy to read, and so that those critical points that Calvin talked about jump off the page. Make it easy to say yes or pass it along.
Thanks, Ted. And Mike, do you have any other comments you'd like to add?
I think it just depends on the person. For me, when I got out of the Air Force, I wasn't looking for federal jobs, so I didn't have to, create this super, long resume for that. And just know your audience, but everyone else was on point with their answers.
Okay, thank you. Well,
hey,
we are at our, yes.
I was just going to add one thing, that the national average for a recruiter to review your resume is 12 seconds. 12 seconds. So how do you make that, that time go in your favor? The term I always heard in the Air Force is blunt, but bottom line up front, this is how I meet your requirements. So make them, that's why the tailoring of the resume is so important, and people get frustrated about that, but you want them to read more into your resume. Just like Mike said, if you have the opportunity to have people buy into your resume, maybe you're not a fit for their position, but they'll pass you on to somebody else with another opportunity. So that's why it's really important to have that information being present in that resume.
Thank you so much. We are at our 1 hour, so I'm going to thank all of you for the wealth of information that you've shared with us today. This is being recorded. We will send out the recording to all of our participants. I have actually gone in and done some research on your military sites for each of your companies, and I'm going to include those links in the email as well. I would encourage the participants, if they would like to connect with these recruiters, then please feel free to go to LinkedIn. You can easily find them, I promise. And if not, please feel free to contact me and I'll help you do that. Thank you again, and I hope that you will come back and listen later on to our final keynote speaker for this career week. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.